Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we love tabletop RPGs short that talks about problematic content, why problematic content should not stop you from playing OSR games. And what I want to talk about today is, what is he talking about? What's this problematic content that's in these OSR games from the 80s? So first of all, I want to meet this guy where he's at. So first of all, the name of his channel is We Love TTRPGs. He had this incredibly freighted short, right? Which, man, do I love that. I love that that we've reached a point where we're talking about multiple very serious subjects about tabletop role-playing games, and honestly, I don't think this guy's talking about, well, yeah, I guess he really is talking about TTRPGs. And again, I think that's foolish. There is no tabletop role-playing game industry. There's only Dungeons and Dragons. I wish everybody would learn that, but this guy's still in all these other TTRPGs matter. Do they? We'll see. Right. So okay, let me stay focused here. So what is the problematic content he's talking about? So first of all, it's really important that he's admitting these OSR games have a lot of problematic content. So let's dig into it. What is it, right? So first of all, gender patterns, okay? Yeah, so, because I don't want to use the word representation, because representation is actually on the list. So gender patterns, okay? These 80s games, man, first of all, every woman, or the majority of women were not depicted as heroes, right? They were depicted as cowering people watching the men do the adventure, right? And then, in addition to that, sometimes somebody, one of the, white guys in the room would go, would put their cigarette down and go, maybe we should make some gender patterns look correct, right? I guess maybe there was one female adventurer. Oh, let's put her in, right? Yeah, thanks for putting her in. Make sure you take off half her clothes, right? She's going to wear armor, but it's going to be bikini armor. I don't know why it's not a problem that she gets cut in the shoulders or in the stomach or on the legs. Or like, you're like, so even when they got it right, they got it wrong, right? Gender patterns, right? So the way they depicted women was abominable. And there's a much longer list than what I just said, okay? Next was LGBTQ. This was the 80s. People were dying of AIDS, right? And there was a ton of fear around LGBTQ. So they were not presented as people who deserve, love and kindness the same way as any other person, right? They were usually left out, or they were depicted as some kind of oddity that you would encounter in the city or somewhere else, right? And so that's hugely problematic, right? Next was race, right? So Dungeons & Dragons has completely gotten rid of the word race because of this. It took them literally 5 decades to get the term race out of Dungeons & Dragons, but they worked hard and they did it, right? They got the word out, right? But you're going to be going back. But this guy's like, hey, everybody, follow me back through this hallway. And here's all these games that talk about race, right? As your species. You're like, this seems highly problematic, right? And you're like, it is, right? Because there were, and there were probably, 10 designers working on a project. And to his point, I think many of the designers were like, oh, no, orcs don't represent a specific, American race. That's absurd. Who would ever do that? But one guy was in the corner going, yeah, they do, right? And and there's one specific race I don't like that I'm not, and I put them in here because orcs can be slaughtered. And so every time, one of these players picks up a sword and slaughters an orc, I know who they're really slaughtering. There's some serious problems. Like when he says problematic content, I mean bad, really bad, right? And so he's like, hey, take a journey with me. We're gonna go together on this little hallway. And you're like, yo, man, this seems highly problematic, really. And it is. This is not what he thinks it is. This is just not what he thinks it is. I'm telling you. right? It's unbelievable, right? And I'm kind of really still shocked that he's going down this road, right? And I'm calling it out, right? Like, you know, because I think he's 100% wrong, right? And then last is representation, right? Are Latinos represented? Are Asians represented? Are Indian people represented? Are people other than white people represented? And in these old 80s games, extremely rarely. And even when they were not represented well, right? Like, so when we talk about problematic content, it is extremely real, and it's not a short list, right? Like, and he's like, you know, waving you into the heretic house, right? Saying, come deeper into the house. And I'm telling you, man, there's stuff in that house you do not want to see. Stay on Dungeons & Dragons VE. He is wrong. He is wrong. He is wrong. But I've just barely scratched the surface. I love this guy's short. I thought it was really, he's 100% wrong. But I love how he was intellectually honest, and he's at least admitting that these OSR 80 games from the OSR have significant problematic content. And that's a step forward, because a lot of times these OSR guys bring you to the heretic house and go, it's completely safe, right? He's going, oh no, there's definitely a dungeon where people get murdered, right? Like there's definitely an abattoir in there, you know. Like, you're like, oh, thank you for being intellectually honest, and I am fascinated. And also, I think I've already done 10 minutes of content on his 1 minute short, which I think is very interesting. So thanks for going on this journey with me. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.